Hello everybody, we are live. Welcome to today's virtual wild encounter. My name is Chelsea and I am an animal interpreter here at the Memphis Zoo. So for the past few virtual wild encounters, we have been following the theme of New Year's resolutions. So you may have joined in with hydration with our toads, exercise with our short-tailed opossums, and more. But to ring in the weekend, we're going to do something a little bit different today. And we are going to be doing Ask a Keeper. So today's segment is going to be a lot about me talking about what it's like being a zookeeper and an animal interpreter specifically, what it's like working in this field. I will be pulling out an animal ambassador for you guys to meet in just a second to hang out with me while we chat. But it's going to be a little bit more informal today and open to questions to you guys about our jobs or about what it's like being in this field or working with animals in general. So I'm super excited to hang out with you guys today, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out my animal ambassador so she can hang out with us while we chat. So give me just 1 second. Thank you so much for your patience.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. We have a big crowd with us today, so feel free to drop those comments in at any time, and we'll get to your questions. Just a quick shout out to Carlos and Wendy. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for tuning in. All right, back to you, Chelsea.
All right, thank you, Bill. So this is our animal ambassador that will be hanging out with us today, and this is Monty, and she is a ball python. And towards the end, before I start getting into questions, I will talk about her just a little bit more. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and jump into what our job is like. So being an animal interpreter is kind of a really nice combination of being a zookeeper and an educator, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more specifically. So on the zookeeper side, on a daily basis, we do a lot of important things, and it's a very busy day. So one of the things that we do on the zookeeper side is doing animal husbandry. So that also encompasses doing really deep cleans, daily cleaning every single day to make sure the animals are living in a really good environment. And we care for over 30 species of animals as animal interpreters here. So that's a lot of animals to get through. But every single day we make sure they have fresh food and fresh water. We prep their food every day to make sure their nutritional needs are being met. And we do medical checks and daily observations to make sure that our animals are healthy. So animal husbandry is just one part of being a zookeeper. Another thing that we do is enrichment. So enrichment is one of my favorite things, and it's really, really fun. And enrichment is something that we give to our animals that helps them stay mentally stimulated and might even encourage behaviors that they might do out in the wild. So for example, we might give scent enrichment like this oregano to our Virginia opossum, and he might sniff around and it's a really novel or new smell for him that's going to be really fun and different from his day-to-day that'll be in his environment. We might also give these pebbles as enrichment to invertebrates just because it's kind of like a different feel for them, and it might be new and exciting. And something else that we could do, excuse me Monty, is we might go ahead and put for our African crested porcupine, put his food in this box with all this newspaper so that he can shift through and forage for it, kind of like he might do in the wild. And so not only is it keeping them physically and mentally stimulated, it's exciting and it might replicate something they might do out in the wild. And enrichment is also kind of fun for us because we get to think of how we want to provide enrichment for the animals that day, so it's kind of enriching for us as well. Now, the third thing that we do is super fun and a lot of zookeepers' favorite thing, and that is training. So especially for our animal ambassadors here, we have to make sure that they are comfortable going out in the public. And training in zoos and with animals is super important for a variety of reasons, but I'm going to give you a few of the most important reasons. So the first reason that training is really important is so that we get to know the animal and they get to know us. So just like you and me, every animal has its own personality, and when we train with them every day, we're getting to know them and understand how they communicate in their body language. So training is super fun in that way in getting to know your animal, and so that they're comfortable with us, and for our animal ambassadors, going out in the public in busy situations. Another really important thing for training is keeping our animals mentally stimulated. So animals are super smart in ways that we can't even imagine. And almost any animal you can think of can be trained. So for example, one of our other animal interpreters, Bella, is working on target training our emperor scorpion, which is pretty cool. So you might not think a scorpion could be trained, but they can, because again, animals are so smart, and kind of bonding with them and stimulating their minds makes training super, super important. So the third thing that makes training really important that we do here is that for husbandry behaviors. So basically what that means is when animals know husbandry behaviors, maybe like giving us their foot or spinning around in a circle, we can get a nice close look at them, and those husbandry behaviors allows them to be voluntary participants in their own medical care. So like I said, giving a foot. So our African crested porcupine can offer his foot voluntarily, just if we wanted to get a nice good look at it. Our goats know an up behavior where they go up on their back legs and we can get a nice good look at their stomach. And again, these behaviors allow these animals to do these things voluntarily if we need to get a good look at them or we're worried about them. And it's really, really low stress for us, and it's really, really low stressful for them. So it's all about making, giving our animals as much choice and control as possible and making things as least stressful as possible. That is very awesome, and it's super important.
Wow. That's really awesome, Chelsea. We've got a lot of great questions coming in. Do you have time to answer a few of them?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I'm going to start at the top.
Okay.
We have a question from Anna. It says, is that a spider ball python, which is a common morph? But no, this is just a regular ball python. Next, we have a question from Cameron. What are some animals that you work with specifically?
So that is a really good question, Cameron. We, like I said, work with over 30 species and around 50 individual animals. And that includes birds, reptiles, mammals, and vertebrates, and everything in between. So just a few animals that we work with: reptiles like snakes, a blue-tongued skink. We also work with invertebrates like emperor scorpions and tarantulas. We work with birds of prey like owls, a red-tailed hawk. We also work with kookaburras. And some of our mammals include rats, an African crested and prehensile-tailed porcupine, and a binturong. So that is just a few of the animals that we work with. So it's quite a lot.
That's awesome. There's so many more questions coming in.
All right.
Thanks for everyone for participating. Just a few shout outs. Hello to Aiden. Thank you for your questions. We have a few questions about Monty specifically. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
All right. How old is Monty? How long will she live? And what does she like to eat?
That is a really good question. So Monty is actually our oldest. We've had her in our Animal Ambassador collection the longest. And I would take guesses for how old she is, but I'll go ahead and tell you. So Monty is actually over 30 years old. So that's insane. She's older than me, so I respect my elder. And ball pythons can be pretty long-lived. They love to eat rodents. Rodents are their favorite food. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end. But they are a very long-lived species, and so we give a lot of care and respect to them. And I will get into her a little bit more towards the end of our chat.
Wow. Yes, Monty is very cool. She's a great snake to work with. We're glad to have her here on the podcast show. Well, here's a few more questions coming in. How long does a lion normally live? Well, that is 10 to 14 years. If you come to the zoo when we reopen, you'll have to wait for that. But we have 3 lions, which you can come and visit yourself. A few other shout-outs from Charity. And yes, that is a big ball python. She's a lot of fun. Next, we have a question from Lisa again. How much does Monty weigh?
Oh, that's good. Let me think. We do wear snakes once a week or once every 2 weeks. Bill, do you have that number in your head?
I believe that she is about 3.5 pounds, or excuse me, kilograms, which comes out to about 6 or 7 pounds.
Yeah, so she's not too heavy. I'm resting my arms on here, but she is being an absolute star today, hanging out with us. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what our job is. Hold your questions, and we will get to them, and maybe as I talk, you might even get some more questions. So that kind of covers very broadly what the zookeeper aspect of being an animal interpreter is. Obviously, it's not all inclusive. There's a lot more I could have talked about, but I would like to break down being a zookeeper into animal husbandry, enrichment, and training. So the other really important part about being an animal interpreter is being an educator. Now, every zookeeper is an educator in their own way, but as an animal interpreter, we do a little bit more. So we get to write and come out and do some shows for you guys. So if anyone got to come see the Zoo Light Show or the Zoo Boo Show, we get to do those, and they're super fun with our animal ambassadors. We also get to do programs just like we're doing today, and Monty's hanging out with us, so whether that's in person or virtual right now. We also get to do encounters. So if you've ever seen us at the zoo doing a pop-up encounter where we kind of hang out and bring an animal ambassador to talk to you guys about them, that was an animal interpreter doing an encounter. So education is super important for our jobs, and really the main goal of why we educate and why we do what we do is for conservation. So conservation is really important, and when we bring you guys to meet these animal ambassadors and we talk about why they're so cool and why they're so amazing, it's so that you can be inspired to think about their wildlife cousins, because every single animal serves a really important role out in the wild. And when they can be out there fulfilling that role, they're creating a balance in the ecosystem. And that's super important. So when we're talking to you guys, spreading our knowledge, spreading our passion for what we do as we work with these animals and we interpret that to you, we hope that we inspire some conservation in you, whether that is to research or maybe share with some friends what you've learned today, and as you keep learning, whether you donate to a reputable organization, whether you adopt an animal here at the zoo or even get a membership, you're helping support not only the animals and the animal ambassadors that live here, but also their wildlife cousins and the habitat that they have in the wild that they need to be protected in order to thrive and fulfill that role out in the wild. So talking a little bit more about Monty here and snakes in general, as I just mentioned, each animal serves a really important role in their ecosystem. Now, it's not uncommon for people to have a fear of snakes, which is okay. We have no judgment, but snakes are actually really awesome. And again, they serve a super important role for us. So, as I mentioned earlier, Monty loves to eat rodents, and so do a lot of other snakes. So even though mice and rats and other rodents are not inherently bad, if they can get into our homes or our crops and do damage, that's not necessarily a good thing. So when we have snakes to kind of provide almost that free pest control, they're serving that role for us in the ecosystem, and we can respect that role that they have.
Wow, that is certainly very important. Snakes are great neighbors, in my opinion. So that's definitely stuff that you should know. We have a whole lot of comments and questions.
Okay.
Just want to have a quick shout out to Cameron Polanski, sent 150 stars.
Oh, thank you, Cameron.
Well, thanks for tuning in. A few other questions. One is, how much does Monty shed? From Sadie, who's 10 years old.
So snakes shed basically a differing amount with their size and their age. Bill, do you know how much Monty sheds on average? Because I know each snake is a little bit different.
Well, all snakes will shed all at once. So they get rid of all their scales when they're going into shed. Their eyes turn cloudy, and their color lightens up. So they'll shed all at once. But she'll shed at least once a month, sometimes more if she's growing. When snakes get older, they don't shed quite as much or as often. Now, we have a few more questions. One from Liz, who says, what's your favorite part of your job?
Oh, that's a really good question. I love a lot of parts of my job. I would have to say, I'm going to say two things. One of them is when I'm working with an animal and I can kind of feel that bond and that trust that I've established with them, because we kind of like to think of our animals here at the zoo as animal coworkers, especially our ambassador animals. And so you have to work up a lot of trust and respect with them in order to work with them and for them to feel comfortable going out in the public with you. So I think establishing that bond with animals is really important. And another thing is getting to educate people. So I love doing programs and doing shows and getting to come out and kind of see the look of excitement on people's faces when we have an animal or when they learn something new that's going to help change an animal's life and inspire conservation within someone. I love educating and talking to people and having those conversations and maybe changing someone's mind about a snake.
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding to get so much positive feedback, especially from y'all in the chat, and hopefully seeing some of you in person soon. Well, we have a lot of star senders. You guys are amazing. We love seeing you guys participate and help our animals out. From Linda, who sent 200 stars. Thank you so much,
Linda.
And then we just got another one from... All right, sorry, we're getting a little bit of lag.
No worries.
There's just too many questions coming in. It's awesome. And Joan Botts, who sent 150 stars, says, love watching Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
All right. Do you have time for a few more questions?
Absolutely.
All right. Brian Henry asks, do ball pythons naturally live in this region? If not, do you have to do a lot of work to keep them comfortable?
Brian, that is an amazing question. Thank you for asking that. I actually forgot to go into detail about that, so let me thank you for segueing me into that. So ball pythons are actually not native to the U.S. Now, if you guys tuned into yesterday's virtual wild encounter, we had Bandit the bull snake, who is native to the United States, but ball pythons are not. So they are actually native to Africa. However, it is not uncommon to see these guys in pet stores or as pets. But ball pythons and other snakes and reptiles require a lot of specific care to be healthy and thrive under human care. And that includes things like temperature requirements, so they need an outside heat source. So you need to make sure that they have heat all throughout the year. They need specific humidity requirements, substrate and feeding requirements. And then, as you can tell, Monty being over 30 years old and they can live to be longer, they are a long-lived species, so they can even be a lifelong commitment. So if you're ever thinking about getting a snake, a reptile, or any other exotic pet for the matter, you have to do tons of research to make sure that you are ready to commit and take care of that animal. And 9 times out of 10, you might find out that that animal might not be the best pet for you. But that was an excellent question. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to take a quick moment before we start wrapping things up. Keep sending your new questions. We'll have time to answer them. But the stars that you decide to donate will actually go to help conservation and help keep our animals healthy. It's pretty incredible. We have a lot of great programs here at the zoo. You can check them out at our website or our Facebook page. Some of the species that we help in the wild include the dusky gopher frog. That's definitely a cool one. And helping return natural habitats to their former glory. So definitely send in some stars if you'd like to help us out in conservation, or you're just the world's biggest super fan. All right, and we do have a few more questions. One from Jungle Jordan, who asks, how long have you been a zookeeper?
Oh, that is a great question. So at the beginning of our virtual encounter, I mentioned that this was my first Facebook Live. So I have actually only been here at the Memphis Zoo as an animal interpreter since late July. So I'm pretty new and green here at the zoo. I was an intern, though, last summer, and I did quite a few internships working with animals, volunteering with animals, but as an official zookeeper, I have only less than a year, so about 5 months. So this is pretty darn cool to be able to talk to you guys. It's a great opportunity. Good question, Jordan. Thank you.
Well, I think you're doing great for your first time on the live stream. Do you guys agree with me in the chat? I think so. Well, we're getting a few questions in just as we start to wrap it up. So if you have any more, feel free to throw them down in the chat. We'll get ready to answer them. And thanks for hanging out with Monty and Chelsea. I think they look great here on this live stream. One last question was, how big is Monty? And what is your favorite animal to train with?
Ooh, that is a good question. You guys keep them coming. So Monty, I think, is around 3 feet, a little over 3 feet. She's a good regular size for an adult ball python. They are smaller for the python species. And my favorite animal to train with is probably our western gray squirrel. So he is one of our newer ambassador animals, and he has been a really exciting challenge to me. He's an extremely intelligent and clever animal, and he has a huge personality. Even though he's not very big, his personality is fighting to get out of that body. So I love training with our Western gray squirrel. Big Sir is his name.
All right, yeah. I definitely love our friend Big Sir. If you tune in later in the month, we'll be having him out for one of these live streams. So definitely keep tuning in, and you might just see us hang out with our friend Big Sir the Squirrel. Now we do have a few last questions before we wrap everything up. One from Brian says, what is our educational background to do this type of work? We are all certified interpretive guides. This means that we are certified by NAI, National Association of Interpretation, to tell stories and educate zoo members and zoo guests about our animals and some of the things that we'd like to teach them about conservation and programming. Well, there's a big yawn from that snake. I think she's getting tired, don't you?
Absolutely. What I would say, just to add to that, Bill, though, we may have studied with animals or anything, but if you're ever interested in working with animals, I would say one of the most important things is just doing your research, talking to people who have worked with animals, and even just volunteering as much as you can, whether that's at a zoo, an aquarium, or even at your local animal shelter. So yeah.
That's definitely great advice. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. Thank you to everyone who donated, everyone who shared the link, gave likes, and asked questions. Well, we'll see y'all later. Thank you for tuning in. I believe our next live stream will be Monday at 11:30. And I want y'all to have a wonderful Friday. Bye.
Bye, guys.